Wyatt sure wasn't looking for a fight. The 20 months since the gunfight at the OK Corral had not been easy ones. In December 1881, his older brother Virgil was ambushed on the street and hit with shotgun blasts. He survived, but his left arm was permanently crippled. The following March, as Wyatt shot pool with him in a saloon, his younger brother Morgan was killed. The attacks on the Earps inspired what became known as the Earp Vendetta Ride. Wyatt recruited a posse of Doc Holliday, Turkey Creek Jack Johnson, Sherman McMaster, and younger brother Warren Earp, and set off after the killers. For the most part, they were successful, but for a long time Wyatt was in legal hot water, charged with murder and other offenses. Another high-profile gunfight was not going to make life easier, assuming he survived it. But Wyatt's code called for not letting a friend down, and he would be reunited with Bat. Already in the imagination of some of the American public back east, they represented the toughest of the frontier lawmen, an undefeated duo who had been in any number of gun battles and had rescued the infamous Dodge City from being a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah, filled with desperadoes, drunks, and fallen women. All three remained. They were just better at behaving themselves. By doing so, Wyatt and Bat, their respective brothers, and the men they rode with, had created the blueprint for law and order and justice throughout the frontier. The Wild West being no longer nearly as wild might make it less fun for some, but it was a lot more livable for families and others pursuing manifest destiny. Wyatt and Bat had accomplished this without quite realizing it, and while still very young men. Both had received little formal education, and they did not have enlightened or religious upbringings. Their fathers had to scrape out a living, in Wyatt's case, sometimes on the wrong side of the law, and their mothers bore and raised large broods of children, most of them boys. Somehow, Wyatt and Bat developed a rough sense of justice and how best to keep the peace. The Earp brothers and the Masterson brothers were, in a way, a gang who were tougher and more righteous than the other gangs in western Kansas and across the frontier. There were many setbacks, but as would later be portrayed in many Hollywood westerns, in the end, the good guys won. The ending in Dodge City had yet to be written. The 6 shooters on the Peace Commission members' belts might be the pens that would do it. After all, giving fair notice, Wyatt had told Mayor Lawrence Degger and his followers just the day before, "Bat will arrive at noon tomorrow, and upon his arrival, we expect to open up hostilities." It had to be satisfying the way their faces had paled. Already, rumors had reached a fever pitch that ruthless men including Dirty Sock Jack, Cold Chuck Johnny, Blackjack Bill, Dynamite Sam, Rowdy Joe, and Shotgun Collins had flocked to Dodge City when Bat and Wyatt had sent out a call to arms. The Kansas City Daily Journal had colorfully reported that Wyatt is equally famous in the cheerful business of depopulating the country. He has killed, within our personal knowledge, 6 men, and he is popularly credited with relegating to the dust no less than 10 of his fellow men. Adding Masterson to the mix, who, the Journal had declared, was one of the most dangerous men the West has ever produced, meant that local lawyers may have been kept extra busy that night drawing up wills for the rattled reformers. They had tossed Luke Short out so they could take away his gambling house, and increasingly that looked like a bad bet. As Bat's train pulled into the station, he had to have mixed feelings about returning to Dodge City. He had told a newspaper reporter that Wyatt was the best friend I have on earth, so he had to be looking forward to seeing him again. But he knew that corrupt tub of lard, Larry Degger and his ilk, were waiting for them. Gunplay was never Bat's first option, nor Wyatt's, but the scoundrels who had taken over the city might have different intentions. When Bat stepped off the train, he had an ivory-handled 6-gun on each hip and a double-barreled shotgun in his hands. Wyatt waited for him, along with Bassett, Frank McLean, Neil Brown, and several